is we need to have players in the market that cannot be controlled by, let's say, the political masses, where their services, they provide their services the way they should. The promise that they gave to the people is what they actually lived.
They need to find a way of competing on the level that this new competitor is coming in at. It's not a question of now we legislate. And that's the conversation people now are having. Why are you telling us now to legislate? And these guys are coming in and bringing something at a price point that people are feeling comfortable.
In a new market, there's usually resistance. You remember even M-Pesa, when it was getting into the market, it was a big war with the banks, because the banks saw like, these guys have come to kill our business and all that. So the disruptive forces usually must get resistance. And now the same position that M-Pesa and the banks were in back in 2007, that's where now Starlink and Safaricom are in currently.
Hey guys, welcome to today's episode of LNN. My name is Lynn Ngugi, and I know this conversation is long overdue, but I've always said there is never a wrong time to do what's right. And I'm pretty sure right now you've heard there's this whole conversation around Starlink versus Safaricom, and not just about Safaricom, but also other internet service providers. And that's why we are here, because we really need to dig deeper and see what are people saying, what are the pros and cons, and why are Kenyans really interested in this conversation, and what potential does Starlink have for our people out there. Ama tu ni story tu, Starlink imekam, we are talking about it, itakwisha, itaenda. Yeah, so I got some really incredible people who are going to help us in this conversation, and I can't wait. And I'm also really interested in your feedback, so you know what we do. If you feel something or you want to add on something on the comment section, please feel free to let me know what has been your take home or what has been your observation. And also, if it's something you can't leave on the comment section, you can always find me at info@lnn.digital. I'm about to let my guests today introduce themselves, but before I do that, guys, I'm really happy for the feedback that you've been giving our conversations. Honestly, I'm going through some of your feedback, and I'm like, oh, I'm really happy that we get to do this civic education together. So asanteni sana for your feedback on our episode on the indigenous seeds, your feedback on our conversation on carbon credit, your feedback on our conversation on the big conservation lie. I do not take you for granted. Twende kama tunaenda. If you also want me to talk about something, you know where to find me, same email. And now, of course, without further ado, please allow me to let my incredible guests introduce themselves. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
We are good.
You're good?
Yes.
Kabisa? All right, so where do we start? Feel free. We start on that end?
Sure.
All right, please feel free to introduce yourself.
So,
yes.
I am Ongaro Robert. I'm an IT consultant with Orange Solutions, and also offer IT services for Sigma Logistics.
All right.
Yes.
Karibu kwetu.
Asante.
Yes. You, sir?
Yeah, my friends call me 308.
Of course.
Yeah, so 308 is my TikTok handle. I own a company called Edge Business Center.
Yeah.
I've owned it for about 8 years. And I've done Uber driving as well for about 6 years. So I'm an owner of Edge Business Center. You can find us on edgebusinesscenter.com. And that's primarily what I do. But on TikTok, I teach people how to start businesses. I talk about small businesses, how it is to own a small business, how it is to drive an Uber, how it is to start small businesses. So usually I talk about the challenges and the things you can do in order to start your small businesses.
The solutions.
They are the solutions. So I teach people how to start small businesses. That's how I started.
All right.
Yeah.
Appreciate having you here.
Thank
of
you.
course, I know among other people who are watching, we are fans. So we can equally say fan over fan.
Yeah.
Karibu sana. Yes. Hi.
Hi.
Waambie jina. Niko fiti.
It's a pleasure meeting you.
Yeah.
So I'm Evans Omondi Otieno. I'm a statistician by profession and an IT consultant as well. I run a company called Sigma Logistics. You can get it from the website, sigmalogistics.com. And I have a vast experience in the internet market. I've run an ISP. I've managed an internet service provider that has used almost all the local networks that we have, the local providers we have.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I've used Starlink.
Good.
So I have a comparison of both of them.
You uko data
Yes,
for all of them.
Yes.
Honestly, as I said in my introduction, I'm happy we are having these conversations, but there's something going on in our country right now. Kenyans are very woke. People are not scared of saying if something is working or if it's not working, if this particular politician is working. When you see what's happening in our country and the level of civic education that is going on right now, how does that make you feel?
Concerning the age we are in, people have the facts with them on their fingertips, and we are in a very informed generation, courtesy of the accessibility of information and the opening up of data and internet and all that. So it's really a good thing. We're in a very good space where accountability is very easily achievable. As compared to the previous, in the previous generations, people could just work with what they've been informed by the media and all that, then they take it as their truth. But as it is right now, you have to verify the information, and we are really blessed to be at such a time where you don't have to wait to be informed of everything.
Yes.
Yes.
You can Google that.
You can Google that
for yourself.
Yes.
All right. 308, how are you feeling?
I'm good. Thank you. And yeah, it's a good conversation we're having about the internet and what's happening with Starlink versus Safaricom. It's a timely conversation because I had talked about it in my video. I think that's where you guys found me. And I was talking about how now things are opening up because of this conversation we're having, and people who are afraid to talk about this thing of Safaricom are talking about it, because we find that some of these areas, like the Safaricom has not been providing the internet at the right prices, and this competitor comes in, and then you find now they want to legislate. So people are asking questions around that. And the internet is something that it's very powerful, and it's what a lot of people use to get education these days, to stay informed, to get the news. So it's something that really they need to find a way of competing on the level that this new competitor is coming in at. It's not a question of now we legislate. And that's the conversation people now are having. Why are you telling us now to legislate? And these guys are coming in and bringing something at a price point that people are feeling comfortable. And you find this device is gonna bring connectivity in rural areas where internet was not accessible. Because it doesn't need fiber. The experts here can tell you. Yeah, sure. It doesn't need a fiber connection. No, so this is something that is gonna make internet so widespread. And if you think about it, it's not even now gonna be a question of even Starlink, because I saw recently the Chinese are offering a solution. They're bringing a solution for themselves. And if you look at where Starlink is going and what the ultimate plan of this is, it's the mobile money transactions, and I think that's where the ultimate
clash is.
The ultimate goal is, this is a $11 trillion market worldwide, and I think that's where this company is eventually heading to. That they're gonna make connectivity seamless, because one thing even people don't realize is that they're not only gonna be offering internet, but by next year they're gonna be offering voice and SMS. So that's really, really powerful. Yeah.
Voice and SMS.
Yeah.
All right. How are you feeling? Tumeamka. Wakenya wanachangamka.
Yes, and it's a good thing to be alive in this particular time, because over the past few things that people actually called a political uproar, it's something that I was just dreaming about seeing happening, where we're the youth, we have our grievances, this is how we want it sorted, and we speak one voice. So at the same time, all these things led to the fact that to some extent people felt Safaricom betrayed them in a bit, where there was a bit of internet shutdown and there wasn't so much of a reason given. So at the time, when I spoke to Evans, I asked him how, the clients are doing, everything is. He was like, the guys are fine. Even when there was a fiber cut, everything was still fine. So then that means we need to have players in the market that cannot be controlled by, let's say, the political masses, where their services, they provide their services the way they should. The promise that they gave to the people is what they actually lived, or rather live by. So it's a good conversation, and it's perfect in the sense that when we do some remote projects, we get to ask ourselves, you go there, you have to use a GSM router, which still depends on particular ISP, depends on mobile network coverage, that is slow and reliable and all that. So at least for the first time, we're also going to get a service that even our military can use, because then there's the military package bit of it. Having gone to several facilities, they are sort of cut off out away from the rest of the world.
Good.
But now, looking at Russia, Ukraine war, you need the technology to work. You need the technology to make decisions. You need the technology to access information. You need the technology to know how to beat your enemy. So, as he said, information is key, and it's actually powerful, and it empowers. So I think we're in the right space, and with cheap and actually fast internet speeds. We've seen what we've done with what we have. So how much more will we be able to do with what is coming?
What's coming?
Yeah.
Let's ask the expert here, because you have dealt with almost all the providers. So I'm assuming this is not just a Safaricom thing. You've dealt with other people.
Yes, Safaricom, Liquid.
Could you tell us? Let's start first. Because sometimes I like breaking things in this show in a very layman's language. What's Starlink, and what differentiates Starlink with our other providers? Yes.
Okay, so the other providers have been majorly fiber-based, which means if we want to bring internet to your place here, we have to pull the fiber cables to this place. Then we set it up. So you can have either a dedicated fiber to your place, or at the same time, you can have a shared fiber. So like the ones that are in houses, at the residentials, maybe a building block that you're given your 10 Mbps, 5 Mbps, that's usually shared. It's shared in that not all of you can be using the same internet at the same time.
Okay.
So they allocate 50 Mbps or 20 Mbps to the building, but then when some are using a little of it, then it's taken to the other person. It's like you share it. Then you can have a dedicated one where you have all the full 100 Mbps or 200.
Peke yako.
Yes, peke yako. So that's usually quite expensive compared to the shared ones. Then for Starlink, you get it from the space, just like the DSTV works. So there's no fibering that is brought to your house. You just need to buy the dish, then you get the signal from the satellite. The satellites have been launched. Elon has launched over 4,000 of them so far. So you get it from your satellite, then you can use it in your house, or you can use it with your neighbor using the other access point. So the main difference between the Starlink and the Safaricom and this Liquid and the other providers that we have is that one is fiber-based, then the other one is from the space. Yes. So in terms of speeds, there has been a difference. The Starlink has been faster based on how we've seen it. And the uptime, now uptime for Starlink is usually 99%, but there's something called priority data. Like if you buy maybe a package and you're given 1 TB priority data, it means before they deplete your 1 TB, you are given priority in terms of satellite. You are uptime full. Then once you deplete that, then it now depends on the number of Starlinks in your area.
Okay.
But then now in Africa generally and let's say in Kenya, the dishes are not as many as they are in New York or in those other countries. So even after depleting the priority data, you don't notice the differences in speed.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, but Robert, let me ask you, because he's saying, you know, the difference, of course, is one is fiber-based, the other one is satellite-based, if I am getting it correctly. When we talk about the price, how has the price been? Any of you feel free to answer, because I think all of you are experiencing Starlink. Because Starlink is not new; it's been here for over a year now, right?
Yeah.
It's been in them for over, but then there is now this app. Everyone is talking about it. Number one, why do you think people have started talking about Starlink the way they are doing right now? Feel free, anyone.
I think first of all, I think it's really trending right now. Partly because of also the fact that what happened during Maandamano and Safaricom. People have lost a bit of trust in Safaricom as a company. And then Safaricom went ahead and said they want to legislate this solution. And I think that's why people really got upset about this device and wanted to invest in this device as a way of telling Safaricom, you're not the only option. We have other options. But the price point is still relatively high to get the device. I think Naivas was selling it for around 45,000 shillings. And from the website, I think you can get the device for, I think, 30,000 shillings, if I'm not wrong. Yeah. Some people have got it for maybe about 29. And then there are others selling second-hand ones. So the price point is still relatively high. Like myself in my business, we're basically an online cyber cafe. We do these solutions remotely. So we rely heavily on internet. And we have Safaricom. And it works, Safaricom works for us because of where we are. And I think we use the gold package for Safaricom. So a lot of people in their homes might not switch. And you also look at people in the low-income areas. They use the providers, the unlicensed ISPs, where people, you get a large package and then you connect your neighbors, and then maybe you charge them 1,500 shillings. So the price point is still relatively high, because the unlimited package for Starlink is 6,500 shillings. So that's quite high. And then I think they've brought a bundle that is about 1,300 shillings, but it's limited to 50 GB. So
50 GB?
It's
Yeah,
50
50
GB for 1,300. Then once you deplete the 50 GB, every 1 GB you buy for 20 bob.
20 shillings.
Yes.
For 1 GB.
That sounds nice, though.
Yeah,
'cause-
But
generally,
the entry,
Yes.
but the entry is difficult because you
It's
have to buy
actually
the
cheaper.
device.
Yes.
So here, the downside
the
is you
downside
have
is now
to...
the equipment that you buy. The entry point is that you buy the Starlink equipment at 29, but it was said that it will be reduced to 22,000
Yeah.
for the
Mini.
1,300 for the mini, the Starlink mini. Then you get 50 GB for 1,300 a month. Every extra GB that you get will be at 20 bob. Still cheaper, still fairer than, let's
What
say,
we've
what we've been having.
So why has what we've been having why is it's been termed as an exploitation? That what we've been getting has been really expensive, that this has been pure monopoly, where people should have gotten what they are getting at a very low cost. Do you think these service providers took advantage of this whole monopoly?
Yes, generally in every market, competition works to the advantage of the users. So if you don't have, if you're in a space where there's no competition, then the owners of the systems usually, if they are not fair enough, they usually serves injustice to the customers. But when there's competition, then Safaricom has to react. Or the other users, the other competitors, they have to find a way of retaining their customers and all that. But then I actually think they should have done this earlier, because they have a good customer base. They should have just really made sure that the services are good, and the price point is good, so that it's fairer to them. But like the reaction of maybe increasing or making this is just a reaction to maybe the new changes that we are witnessing.
Okay.
Yes,
All
which
right.
is long overdue.
He's mentioned something that they should have done this earlier. Do you think Safaricom and other providers failed to realize that competition is global?
Well, yes, because at the same time, they had a classic example when they came with M-Pesa. They pushed the banks around pretty much, and they also faced opposition.
Yes.
But then now it's on this other side as well. So since Safaricom have been having this bit of brilliance and all that, they should have looked at what exactly can we do more now that Starlink is showing up. How can we partner with these guys way before? And then another thing about that I thought about reachability, or rather the whole with them getting to the last mile. There are certain places, whatever it is they do, they have to come do installations. There are certain people that do not allow you to have like a distribution box in the building. So then that means you're missing out on certain clients. So at the same time, about the pricing, the guy said they have a cheaper package where you can actually rent the terminal instead of buying it outright. Then you rent it at about 1950, the registration of 2,300 shillings, and then now you're all set. So I think that to some extent reduces the whole entry cost. Yeah. So that can actually help many guys to join, because even these other providers, when you are getting connected, there's installation fee, you pay for the router, then now there's the payment for the monthly package. So I think that's also pretty much will help, to them to get more subscribers. Then at the same time, the reason why people like, or other people feel excited about this, is the speeds. You're not capped at a certain megabits per second. You can get up to maybe 100. So then that means it's in as much as whatever you're paying for could work for you, or might seem cheaper, but you're capped at a certain rate. Let's say, for example, someone does videos. I know you upload a lot of content. You want your upload speeds maybe to match your download speeds. The time that you'll spend uploading this content, if maybe it was something that just came up and you want to be the first guy with it online, someone uses Starlink, you use your link. By the time yours goes, it's already out with everyone. It will no longer be trending. Guys have already moved to the next thing. So it's good that the guys are actually doing whatever they are doing. But at the same time, Safaricom, or rather ISPs in this case, because we don't want to make it about Safaricom.
Yes.
I saw, I think Airtel, they were doing SMS promotions, telling guys that, you know what, we are giving you 10 Mbps for 990 something shillings for a month. I was like, wow, that's interesting. Because for the first time, guys are shaken to some extent. So the guys actually, or rather our ISPs, should also not be so much, in as much as they will lose to some extent, they stand to gain in a way. For example, when Starlink and any other providers for that matter decide to do maybe mobile phone, as a voice and SMS, I think to some extent there's a way they need to partner with the local providers. Yes.
And just to add on what he's saying, much as we're saying that Starlink is expensive, but for the business setup it's cheaper. It's cheaper for a business than for individuals. For instance, a business would not struggle paying the 6,500 that you'd pay as an individual. As an individual, the local ISPs will give you internet for 3,000 a month or 2,500, not 6,500. But when you have a business, then you go for Starlink, you'll still be fine because you have speeds and uptime all the time. And there is also a business package, like the dedicated fiber that I just started to tell you. Like if you are an ISP that wants to resell internet or something, you buy dedicated fiber from these local ISPs like Safaricom, Liquid, and the rest. They'll sell you like a dedicated 100 Mbps could be like 120,000 per month. So if you do the same with the business enterprise for Starlink, it means you will buy it. It would definitely be expensive, around 300 or 400,000. But now the monthly will be 15,000.
Oh.
So you see, it's still an advantage to you if you are in
So it's a win.
It's a win. It's still a win. For businesses, it's a win. A very big win.
So mainly, it's actually coming to solve someone who teaches people about, business and solutions. Number one, do you think what Evans is saying is right, that this is coming to solve it's bringing a solution to a problem that we've been experiencing? And also on the same note, as someone that tells people how to, navigate their businesses, do you think our service providers got comfortable at some point?
I think there was, like you said, they did not see the business as global, and they knew that they had this market cornered, and their only competitor locally was Airtel. And if I look at my job as an Uber driver, one of the things that a lot of Uber drivers complain about is the daily package that they buy, the daily bundles that they buy, because you need to use a lot of data when you're on the app, because you need to be on the apps all the time. So you find a lot of Uber drivers, they use the 100 shilling Safaricom package per day, which that comes to about maybe almost 3,000 shillings for the whole month. And most people use those daily packages, even the 20 shillings for 1 hour. And you find, for me, what I think, those things really shouldn't exist. They should, if you talk to your friend in Europe, or you talk to your friend in the US, they have an unlimited package for the whole month. He's paying a certain number of dollars, maybe $10, and he gets an unlimited package for everything. Those packages don't exist with Safaricom. Even if you pay your 2,000 shillings for the whole month, or 3,000 shillings, it's still limited.
And you deplete. That's
still,
on you.
Your minutes are still limited.
Yes.
So why isn't there an unlimited package for monthly phone, minutes, SMS? Why don't they give us those things? That the parent company is Vodafone. In Vodafone in the UK, they're giving that package. Why don't you give the Kenyans the same? Why don't you give them an unlimited package for everything? So I think they failed to see that it's global.
Yes.
And they thought, like, we Kenyans, we only exist in this small area of the world, and it's going to be a problem for them, because if we're talking now, these guys go to SMS, and then they go to voice, and then after that they go to mobile money.
And just to add on that, Elon started from fintech, because he's the founder of PayPal, which means, from my assessment, I see this Starlink is just a start, but it's headed towards the mobile money. It's headed towards the calls, the SMS, and the fintech side of it. There'll be a fintech that is directly linked to that. That would be a more efficient solution to maybe what we currently have, or that. So the local providers need to be worried. They're justified enough.
If you talk about Starlink, if we're having a conversation about Starlink, he's correct. You've got to have a conversation about Elon Musk. And if you look at his companies and the capability he has, I think they really have a lot to be worried about, because he owns the company that launches the satellites, SpaceX, that puts the low orbiting satellites in space. So that's very worrying. You can't compete with someone who has so much infrastructure.
He owns
the company that is launching the satellites, that is doing the telecom company. And he wants to be global in terms of global reach. Because if he goes mobile, yes, probably the government will have to legislate. And I think at that point, the government will have to legislate, because they'll have to tell him, you have to get a telecom license.
Yes.
Because they have to make money from it. These other people cannot pay for a telecom license, and you're not paying for a telecom license. So I think at that point, when he starts doing
mobile
SMS
money
and voice, and he goes into mobile money, then the government of Kenya will definitely tell him, okay, now we have to sit down and talk, and you tell us.
But it's not like it's something he would say no to,
No,
right?
he wouldn't.
This is the richest man in the world.
Yeah. And we know the government. Yeah,
He's the
so
richest man in the world.
he will have his way either way.
Yes.
If he intends to do it, he'll still do it based on how we've seen him operate. Yeah.
If you see his companies from the very beginning where he started, if you look at Tesla, people didn't think the company was gonna do what it did. They didn't think that it was gonna compete with companies, very big companies, you know, and do electric vehicles, you know, to compete with Mercedes, to compete with all these big companies. People really didn't think he would do that. If you look at SpaceX, people didn't think that he would be able to launch, you know, a private company would be able to launch, you know, rockets. And he did it, you know. So where he's going next, if you look at that, the mobile money transactions,
Yes.
it's a very, very big market, $11 trillion. It can't be ignored. That's probably where they're going.
But some people would say service providers like Safaricom, they have been really close to a normal mwananchi, right? They have really, what is it called? Nika waliweka mwananchi wa kawaida mbele, because that's what even during the advertising, you see a lot of that, you know? It's better option, they care, it's honest, simple and
transparent.
it's honest, simple and do you think, not just SAF, but we are just using SAF because there were allegations, they went and, you know, they went to the communications authority, the allegation, they wrote this and that, right? But do you think they've been honest, they've been simple, and they've been transparent? And also when we go back to what just happened during the protest, do you think that's where people lost a bit of faith in these providers?
Yes, I actually think this really contributed a lot towards the hype that we are currently experiencing, because people assumed that the government instructed Safaricom to slow down internet so that the coverage wasn't that good. And you know, the government owns a good number of shares in Safaricom.
They have 35%.
35, yeah, so they are a major shareholder. So people associated them maybe with operation or something, maybe going to bed with the government or something like that, which could be true or not, but then it's something that people experienced, and it changed their perception, much as, you know, Safaricom has been a provider, a solutions provider to Kenya for a very long time. Kenyans, especially through M-Pesa. M-Pesa that we see is a very simple thing, a very big thing here in Kenya. When you go to other countries, mobile money is not as big as it is here in Kenya. Like, you will be surprised that even in the US, when they come and see that M-Pesa is this big and you just have money on your mobile phone, withdraw in the next shop and all that, they're surprised at how developed we are, and at how advanced we are in terms of mobile money and fintech. And this has been courtesy of Safaricom. But then I think this generation that we have, you know, every generation has what they believe in and all that. So the current one that we have in is a generation that really believe in freedom. They want to be free to express themselves without the limitations and all that. So if they can get freedom from maybe whichever provider, that when they want to say something, they'll not be cut off, then they'll go for the freedom that they get in Safaricom. In let's say Starlink, where they'll not be told that your data cable has been switched off from the undersea. You can still be up all the time, even during crisis, because you never know. The crises are always there nowadays. So they want to be there to be able to get information real time without interference, and that's the freedom that they see that they can get that from Starlink as preferred to this.
How safe is my data when it comes to Starlink? How safe?
Your data should be safe, generally, I think so. It should be safe, but That should
But
be
the question,
suggested.
the question
Yes.
I want to ask the experts is, if that is the case, that the government has control when they're using Safaricom, will they allow a foreign company to have control?
They already allowed.
Wouldn't they be safer with Safaricom?
Actually, the government is safer with Safaricom.
That's what I'm saying. Then doesn't it mean that they should legislate Starlink because they wouldn't have control?
What the government maybe didn't know, or maybe they were aware but they underestimated, was the freedom that comes with Starlink. The control will not be as direct as it would be for Safaricom, where they will just go there and tell them, you do this. For this, they can control maybe, but it will be a longer process reaching the Starlink.
Then would Safaricom won't the government side with Safaricom? Because I think they've said they're going to legislate. So won't the government side with Safaricom?
Do you think? Yes.
I actually think the government may side with Safaricom, but something about Starlink, much as it was allowed to work here in Kenya, even if you go to other countries that haven't allowed it, you can still use it. Yes, because I have a friend in Congo, in Uganda. They use Starlink and it's not yet there because they are on the space. The satellites are on the space. So it's just that when it's allowed in your country, there's more support. Like you can get a lot of those equipment. If there is anything that you need done, you can get somewhere to go and check on it.
So that means you can't actually block it.
Yeah, so you can't block it. You can take your Starlink kit that is mobile and go with it to Central Africa Republic. It will still work because the Starlink are not, the satellites are not in Kenya. They are around the earth.
All right, which then presents another question then. If we having a platform that hosts our data, and it hosts a lot of our data, then should these platforms really have government shares in them? Shouldn't they be independent? Because this is our private information. If then the government has like 35% shares in this business, how safe then is our data?
Oh,
I think with that, you have to look at both sides.
Yes.
Because you see, with government, you can legislate.
Yes.
You can go to court and say something was done to my company, or this and this or law was violated. Maybe you can go to the communication authority. But now with Elon Musk, where will you find?
You could actually find him in this sense. Actually, these guys, any giant company or any tech company for that matter, follows certain international laws. It reaches a point where a company goes beyond its home country. So in this case, I think we'll have to then, as we said, the competition is global. So let the litigation also go global. So then we can pursue such cases internationally. Because then if we try to maybe change a few things here and there locally, of which I've seen happen, the country has actually lost lots of money in court cases against companies like Google and all that, because then we do not handle such cases the right way. So I think with the litigation, of course, yes, we'll have to have our own, but then at the same time, ensure that they go in line with the international laws, so that if something goes south, we get justice. But at the same time, I think about data, if let's say they're not as regulated as we suppose, to me as a user, I think it's better that way, because then that
when
means
they are less regulated.
less regulated. Because actually the whole thing that is happening right now began as a tweet on X. I think it was Amerix that just told Elon, we need internet. We are being messed up around here. And he said they'll be available. And then everyone just went and started buying. And actually those packages, he did not just tweet for the sake of it. The packages actually changed the pricing and all that, and now we'll be having Starlink Mini. So I think since they're running and moving with the market, the demand, they're actually meeting it and all that, let them have it for that particular period. But if they're to operate, let's say for mobile phones, voice and SMS, and even the financial side of things, regulations, I think, are pretty much important. And international laws, I think, are more punitive than our local laws.
Okay.
That's why as we are still using international services like PayPal and all these other things. And though from a couple of users, they've really suffered a bit, where you'll find your account gets blocked because of maybe location and all that. So I think at the same time, we also need to vouch for ourselves and tell them, we're not some guys hiding in some bush somewhere as you guys have always supposed. This is a woke world. We gave you mobile money when no one was actually thinking about it. So now consider in this and this and this and that. So Kenya has to wake up and actually advocate for itself.
Okay.
Or rather herself, not itself, herself. Kenya is a living country.
308.
I think the solution lies in also government investing in this infrastructure for itself. There was a plan where Kenya Power was supposed to do connectivity for internet. I've not heard of them talking about that anymore.
Kenya Power is a monopoly on it. I actually feel like that's a conversation now.
Actually, about the Kenya Power internet, do you know that the fibering, the internet fibers lines that run on Kenya Power for a very long time, they were more than even the Safaricom and all that. Safaricom just overtook it.
Wait, what?
Most of these telecom lines, the internet lines, they've been running on Kenya Power for a very long time.
Kenya Power actually has the infrastructure.
We have the infrastructure, but it's not working.
They have the infrastructure. Because if you look at your home back in the village, it probably has a pole there. So it's very easy for them to connect every home. And for me, as much as we like the cost of the Starlink and or what the features that Starlink is offering, I think at the end of the day, we should develop our own infrastructure for these things. And because when a country has its own infrastructure for something as critical as this, then you cannot be controlled. Because another thing with Elon Musk, he's also a person who's known for not following the rules.
Yeah, true.
He's known for breaking the rules and not abiding by the rules. He doesn't play by the rules. So
is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It's a good thing.
It's a good thing when he's on your side.
When you're innovating something, when you have a good idea and somebody tells you you can't succeed in it, then you go ahead and get to do it. But there are certain times when you could be harming the next person. But then if you cannot follow laws, then it's crazy.
Because even the idea of buying X was to promote free speech. Yes. He wanted to make sure that you can say anything there and nobody will take you to any other place. So he advocates for free speech, and even this internet, it will be very difficult for the government to control because the owner is a radical guy who believes in free speech, free expression. So it would be hard. It would be hard for them to maybe put regulations or all that, and it's global now. Not unless all the governments in the world go against it. But if it's only, let's say, Kenya going against that, then maybe they just say Starlink to get out of the country, all that. But it would be too hard to control the.
Okay. But the thing is, it's a double-edged sword, because if they're not on your side, if your policies are not on your side, it means you could easily be cut off if they control the infrastructure. And he mentioned something which I had not even thought about in terms of security, where maybe there are bases that or military infrastructure that need connectivity that are right now not connected. The government really should develop this connectivity as a priority, such that we have our security infrastructure that
is ours.
Yes, that is ours.
Yeah,
it should be owned by our government, such that if anything happens, that we need to, this critical communication, then it is controlled by us, because some of these loyalties shift, and that's why I think even China, they're launching their own low Earth orbiting satellites, so that they can compete with.
And what do you think about this? Is our data, much as we are complaining that the government is taking the data from Safaricom or that, is our data safe with a local ISP like Safaricom, or it's safe with the international one that somewhere?
For me, I rather the data be local than it international. I rather
You prefer an on-site server than a cloud server.
I prefer something local. Yeah, than something international, because if you start, those are people who you can't get to. There's no way you can get to those
But then again, they have nothing to do with you.
They're so to get to them even through legislation is so hard.
Yeah.
It's so difficult. If something goes wrong, like what you're talking about, PayPal, there've been so many complaints. You know, Elon Musk was one of the founders of PayPal. They are called the PayPal Mafia because that's where they made their first money, where they sold the company.
Yeah.
So if you look at the company right now, it's got so much control. You know, and people complain a lot about the transactions, because they can flag a transaction on that's been going on your social media, your payments, and they are held.
But he's no longer a founder. He's no longer part of it.
So he's no
I
longer
think the question should be: do we have complaints about Starlink? Do we have complaints about Tesla? Do we have complaints about SpaceX? Do we have complaints around what he is able to control? Because I could be the founder of LNN, then I leave. Whatever the founders decide now to do, that's now. I don't think he has control on what PayPal decides to do after he exits.
Yes, that makes sense. I think for the companies that he is currently running, the end users are not complaining. The complaints are from the people who control the systems, maybe the competitors and all that.
So the end user is not
But the end users, majorly, they are majorly fine.
The end users are not complaining. And actually, for let's say X or any other place where he has competitors, he takes his time to troll them and show them how much his services are better.
You guys, you just seem you're just pro Elon Musk.
A lot of people are, and I think a lot of people are, and I think we should be cautious about that.
Yes,
because he's getting so much control over different aspects of our life. Like if you look at mobility, the EV sector, he's going to be dominant there pretty soon. I think they are Tesla. I think is the number one right now. So all the other companies are catching up, and everyone eventually, even here in Kenya, we're all gonna go to electric vehicles eventually. I think the policies are being developed, and people are slowly going into that. It makes more sense right now for you to buy an electric car than it does for you to go and buy a normal car. If you have somewhere where you can charge your vehicle, and you can drive around, you don't. For me, like I'm an Uber driver. That's one of my jobs.
Yes.
I drive around maybe 150 kilometers a day or something like that. An average person, you go from your home, you go to town, you come back.
Yeah.
You know, you go to the mall on the weekends, you go a few. It makes more sense for you right now, if you are buying a car, to buy an electric vehicle than it does to buy a gasoline engine, because you won't have to go to the petrol station. So he's becoming dominant in that field. So if we give all our control, to this infrastructure, then I think we lose it ourselves. We should develop some of these systems ourselves, like the Chinese. They do. The Chinese usually they develop companies on their own. They say if you want to come do this, they have to have their own company doing that. And I think that's the policy as a country we should develop. Yes, it's good technology. Yes, it's very good. It allows this and allows that. But can we start developing some of these technologies?
But hence the question, because he said something about the end user, right? whose problem is it that we've not developed this infrastructure for ourselves? Because you can see, I think a couple of my favorite people, I saw Amerix, he's really going hard on Starlink. And you can tell this is not a paid ad. This is just someone who is seeing that this is a good product. Someone like Morara, he is out there advocating for this product. So should we pause for our government to get its together, where else there's someone who needs to go into uploading content, online writing, you yourself an Uber driver, you need to, so should we wait or should we just embrace Starlink? Because it is what it is. It's here and it seems to be solving a lot of problems. Will we be okay to say, let's wait and develop where else people are sleeping hungry because they are not opportunities that could have been solved by internet access to internet?
Okay, I think we shouldn't wait. Let's go with it as is, as we are developing something of our own. Yes.
For me, what I think...
Yes, I think that's the elephant in the room.
I think we should develop the policies.
Yes.
And I think anything we do should have the right policy framework from the very beginning. We shouldn't say that okay, let's allow this technology to go full speed, and then later on let's develop. That's how we do things in Kenya, and that's led to a lot of our problems in this country, because we don't have good systems, we don't have strong systems, and we really need to change our society in a way that we develop strong systems fast for anything. You know, whether it's our roads, whether it's our infrastructure, whatever it is, we need to have the policies developed which govern these technologies, because they are really critical systems. You know, they are very, very critical systems. You're talking about, if you look at something like M-Pesa, if M-Pesa goes down for a day, you know, but where is the legislation governing something like M-Pesa that, you know, should say that this technology should be used can be used by all companies? They know the link, the costs, you know, things like that. Where are the controls? Even for Safaricom, so where are the controls? So,
well, let me ask, isn't that where the problem is? Because if M-Pesa goes down today, a lot of people's lives will stop, will be a standstill. Don't you think that's the monopoly that something like Starlink is coming to do away with?
Yeah, I actually think the monopoly that Safaricom has been enjoying should be a cause for worry to everybody, because people store money in M-Pesa, and everything revolves around that. So suppose one day they just say that M-Pesa is down, you know how many businesses will be, even for a day, it would be disastrous. So the monopoly should be addressed, and if something like maybe Starlink or another provider can come to bring that, then it would be an advantage to the end users and even to businesses. Because
but what has stopped our existing other service providers from closing that gap?
Actually, Airtel has been sleeping in class, I think. Because Safaricom has had a lot of downtimes in some, not necessarily downtime, but there has been some gaps that if Airtel was just serious about it, they would have really taken advantage and be a worthy competitor to Safaricom. Actually, I think it's just in our Kenyan or East African market where Airtel is not that serious about it. But when you go to West Africa, Airtel is big. Even on good parts of West African countries, it's a big thing. So maybe just the infrastructure on this side of Africa is where they've not developed much in terms of their network coverage. They have very good data deals, let's say, like packages for internet maybe even Airtel Money and all that. They're very way cheaper than Safaricom.
Oh, really?
Yes, the data deals for Airtel are cheaper. The transaction costs for Airtel Money, comparatively to maybe what we have on M-Pesa and all that, is also cheaper. But the disadvantage that they have is their network. You can have all the data you want, but you can't use it. So how will it help you?
So does the government have shares in Airtel?
I think I'm
No,
not
it's
sure.
No?
I'm not sure.
It's not government.
So
I think I don't think Airtel really have been sleeping, as you say. I think they've been trying, but they've been trying to get the interconnectivity charges reduced.
Yeah.
I think Airtel, Jamii Telcom, and Telcom have been trying to get the interconnectivity, and there was some legislation I think they were doing, they were pushing for them to be able to reduce the interconnectivity charges that Safaricom charges them, which are pretty high, and I think Safaricom has been refusing to lower those charges, even on M-Pesa.
So if they've been refusing,
Yeah.
if they've monopolized this whole place and made sure that it's going to be tough for other providers, so is it not fair that Starlink also comes in?
Because
For me, what I'm saying is, yes, it's good for the consumer, but then we also have to think about national security in the terms of having control of a network of so much of a critical infrastructure like that with a foreign company.
Yes.
That
I'm in agreement.
Yeah, so we also have to think about that, because if they should first of all do the policies, yes, because if people switch over completely and we have millions of people on this infrastructure, like you're talking about now, M-Pesa, and now this other one becomes similar, I think one of the other companies that was coming to do money was Flutter, where they were licensed. So if these companies now start coming in, we really need to sit down and have policies. Yeah,
Before we can continue.
Before we can continue.
We can go any further.
Yeah,
I'm actually in agreement.
Because it will become quite big.
And then at the same time, I think since you mentioned about policies, first things first, we need to make sure our ISPs themselves, they agree. Whatever it is they've been pushing Safaricom for, they can find a common ground. Because then guys are suffering. You're sending money from Airtel Money to M-Pesa, the charges are sometimes exorbitant, and there are a few things here and there. So in as much as, yes, they came with the technology, but they should allow the other guys to have a bit of it that they can, to ensure that there's so much of interoperability between those services first. Then from there, it will be easier for us to regulate any other person that comes from outside, because a divided house always falls.
Yeah. You see, for me, I help people start small businesses.
Yes.
And one of the things I teach aspiring entrepreneurs is don't rely so much on M-Pesa for your business. Use a bank. And a lot of people run their whole business on M-Pesa, and they don't realize that, it's not the only option. You can use your bank. You can have a bank account where the business settles to your bank account, and then from your bank account, maybe you need to do your shopping. You can use your Visa card, which is free. You don't have to use M-Pesa for everything. Like Safaricom has become so big that we think really that it's the one we have to use for everything.
The only option.
Yeah, I also teach people use Airtel because it's cheaper. Use Jamii Telcom for your data. There are other options, not just the one option. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think M-Pesa, the advantage that they had, or rather that they have when it comes to maybe things to do with businesses and banks, was the way that their transaction is almost instant.
Yeah.
So at the same time, PesaLink came in. it works in a similar way. So I think guys should be able
it's
to,
free.
and it's free.
Yeah, Starlink
Up
is free
to
for
900
1,000 shillings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From that, then they don't charge much for the higher figures beyond 1,000. So then that means people should also get to see which other solutions are in.
Explore
Yes, they
option,
should
explore
other options.
explore other options.
You can realize that if you send 1,000 shillings to someone from your bank account to their bank account, everyone has a bank account. A lot of people, rather, in Nairobi have bank accounts. You can ask someone, give me your bank account, let me send you
money there.
Let me send you 1,000 shillings. And you've sent 1,000 shillings from your bank to their bank, and it's free. You don't always have to use the easiest option because it's expensive. If you look at your transaction costs for 1 year,
It's a big thing.
if you go and look at your transaction costs for 1 year,
It's a lot.
me the minute INM said they have free bank to M-Pesa, I switched. I went there immediately.
Yes.
Yeah.
Generally, in a new market, there's usually resistance. You remember, even M-Pesa, when it was getting into the market, it was a big war with the banks, because the banks saw like, these guys have come to kill our business and all that. So the disruptive forces usually must get resistance. And now the same position that M-Pesa and the banks were in back in 2007, that's where now Starlink and Safaricom are in currently. It's just the same thing, but there will be a way out of it, so that if it's just worked, especially along the policies that they are saying, then every party will at least get their share, and the consumers will also have a variety of options, and it will be a win-win for all of them. I'm very sure that before maybe Starlink is launched in a country or something, the government and the Meta and all those other companies abroad, they have to have an agreement, a lot of roundtable meetings. There are policies around it. It's just that they're not there on the public. See, what we just see is that it's in Kenya.
Yes.
We don't know what was there behind the scenes before they came to that agreement. Same case with something like Facebook monetization and this social media. You can just assume that, it's been monetized, but before then, there must be officials from the government that go and meet the people there. They discuss, they see, how is the government going to benefit from this? There was a conversation.
And there was paperwork.
There was paperwork and everything.
All right. So I don't know if it's a rumor. I can't verify it, but I saw somewhere, I don't know which country, where Starlink had been launched and the president has done away with it, and Elon says he's gonna provide internet for free. Hypothetically speaking, is that something he can do in Kenya? If they say no, can we access Starlink for free?
Yes, that's the same thing I was telling you, that there are countries where it has not yet been monetized,
But they are
launched, but
accessing
people are accessing it. It's on the space.
Yes.
So the launching and bringing it to Kenya just increases the support, so that you get more of those gadgets. If you need assistance with that, you can easily find. But your Starlink can work anywhere because the
Satellite based.
satellite is satellite
All right.
based.
Okay. So I want to wind up, but maybe before we do, I'm really interested in your parting shot, and I also love. I think it's a take home for everyone. As much as we are celebrating, I think people are celebrating because they feel they've paid too much for so long. I mean, if someone is providing you 50 Mbps at such a cost compared to what you've been paying all along, at the end of the day, I'm happy for the end user, because we have to look at it based on how is this really going to help millions of people, even in the country, who are jobless. What solution is this bringing to some of the problems that we've been experiencing? Like we were talking even before we started rolling, rule of uko ushago, people really could use internet. So
Even in Turkana,
even in
whichever place.
places like those ones that have been left out. So where else it has a lot of advantages, it also has maybe a couple of disadvantages, especially matters national security. But let's see where this conversation goes. I think for me, my take home, the lesson is competition is global. Just because you have been able to take over a place. And it's I think that's what you even teach your people. You need to constantly ask yourself, what's the next move? You can't afford to be
To be
comfortable,
yeah.
you know. But really interested in your parting shots, and also where can people be able to find you guys? And if there's anything you feel like we've left out, don't let me rush you. Feel free to still address it before we wind up.
It's been a very interesting conversation right there. And I think we're in an open market, and these are changes that are bound to happen. Even if it was monopoly for 100 years, something was just supposed to come up. So let's just move with the changes and adapt where necessary. It will still be to our advantage. The government just needs to make sure that the regulations are in place, well in place, to make sure that everybody is safe. And our privacy, the data security, I know they have that in mind, but it's been, the competition would be an advantage to the users, and there have to be complaints from the parties that have held the status quo for a long time. Yeah, so I think it's a good thing that we are finishing, that we are having something as a monopoly to provide better services maybe to consumers. So just like I said, if you want to reach us, we have our website, sigmoidlogistics.com. We can help you with your internet connection. We can help you with your IT solutions. And a number of things. You'll just find them on the website.
All right.
Yes,
good job.
Thank you for that.
Yes, karibu sana. Hope we get to also have you next time.
Yeah.
Because I know it's a developing conversation.
Yeah, sure.
Yes. 308.
Yeah, so I think it's a good conversation we're having. But as much as you want the newest, coolest thing, you have to think of the business that is next door and closest to you. So if Sigmoid is providing internet, then go with Sigmoid. Go and have your friend who's providing internet in the local community, and let him connect your home, let him connect your business, let him support you. Build social capital. The most practical thing is the most practical solution. The best solution is the one closest at hand. So those are some of the things I teach, and for me, one of my biggest hashtags is street knowledge. So understand the streets, more than what you understand on what social media is. Understand the people around you, your community around you, more than you understand a lot of what is happening on social media. So my where people can find me on TikTok is 308 in words, 308. And my business is edgebusinesscenter.com. Those are places where you can find me.
All right. Edge Business Center.
edgebusinesscenter.com.
Good. Street smart.
Okay, so far so good. And I think, as they've said, it's something new. It's the new shiny toy. And we need to be pretty much careful in as much as we're going in, because there's euphoria around it and all that. So at the same time, you also need to ensure that we are safe to some extent, or rather to the extent possible. So it's good. So at the end of it, since there are remote areas that do not have so much of connectivity, I think we now have a solution. And then at the same time, we're also looking forward to the reduction in prices, the setup costs and all that. And we're looking forward to having a country that is so much connected and global in that sense. But in everything, I think for this one, we really need to be careful, especially with our policies. We don't need to mess it up. And at the same time, having seen the bills that are introduced in Parliament and so many things, we need to have sober minds, draw the bills and everything to ensure that this time around we don't get messed up. In case of a litigation issue somewhere, we should not lose taxpayers' money over some carelessness in the clauses that were passed. Yeah, so I think it's a good thing, but at the same time,
it's something to think about.
Yes, to think about. Yeah.
Where can people find you?
As you mentioned, sigmoidlogistics.com.
Yeah. Tujenge na internet. So anyways, we didn't one thing, security. Hizi vitu za Starlink ni kubwa. Hazitaibiwa?
Zinakuwa mounted on the rooftop.
Kwani mtu hawezi fika rooftop?
So that security is a question. It could be a question, but now that would be just like these are the normal ones. There's an issue to do with security. If you live in an insecure place, zinaweza ibiwa. So you just need to take
But I saw
precaution.
I saw people riveting the bracket, the bracket it comes to. I saw them. There's a solution where they rivet it to the cement. So I think it's also.
Then there is another thing is in that once there's a way you can lock the device so that when someone steals it, he'll not be able to use it.
Huh?
Yes.
Okay, I think that was one of the downsides as well. The fact that you have to mount them in public places where else the other ones you could be in your home and it's.
But also
right
something
there.
I think we probably didn't mention.
Yes.
It's also good for business.
Yes.
So for young people to invest in it.
The Starlink?
Yes.
You
It's
said
very
that?
good. Yeah.
For the business part.
The business,
It's good for
very good.
you can distribute internet.
Oh,
Yeah, you
yes.
can understand.
Yeah. And you said it's cheaper also.
Yeah, it will be cheaper.
Yeah.
You can sell cheaper than your competitors, so which means it will give you a competitive advantage.
Okay.
Because the routers come with a bypass mode. So when you get it, you can actually connect your own router and still use Starlink. You don't have to use their router.
Okay.
So you'll just be using the router to power the outdoor device, but then internally you can use your own router. And then now just distribute internet. Yeah.
Okay, looks like there are business opportunities to
Yeah,
me. I just want
so
what's
many
good for
opportunities.
everyone.
Yes,
I just want
provided
what
a lot of opportunities.
Yes.
To people who can capitalize on that. It is a very good opportunity to the youths. Yes.
Bora isikue kweli.
Exactly.
Bora watu wasianze tena kutoa savings zao, they rush there and then in a day or two prices are down.
It's actually good for someone who knows what he's doing. You don't just go there because umesikia iko na biashara. Already you should be in that business, or you know what you're supposed to do.
You should have the knowledge.
Yes.
Because at the same time, it's interesting. You might get the devices themselves, and someone can actually go on the website and just make an order. So
Okay.
it's a little tricky.
It's tricky. Bora isikue kweli, my people. Research the way you have said. There is rate amesema. Understand the community around you. But I appreciate it. As I've said, it's a developing conversation. I know there's going to be a lot of these conversations out there. But I think for me, my priority is the end user. But as you've said, we really need to be cautious in terms of developing this infrastructure for ourselves. I just feel also that our government has been laid back on doing what they needed to do. We shouldn't always be out there with our hands ready to receive. Ingekuwa poa kai kitu ingekuwa yetu. By the way, kama CS wa communication angetushow tuko na solution hii na hii for it's like we just exist as a nation.
But I think
that's why M-Pesa didn't work in South Africa. Because the banks
they
were
have their
Don't
own.
understand.
you know, sorry. Generally, I don't know whether it's our system that has a lot of bureaucracies. For startups, they find it seriously regulated. Like if you want to start a fintech, like a company or something that would be like an M-Pesa or a mobile money or all that, it's heavily regulated.
Yes.
Most of this, even these developments, the government, I think they should provide some support so that even the innovative Kenyans are able to get something out of it and bring the innovations to
And I
to
feel
life.
actually there's not a lot of support in our innovation
too many barriers to entry.
Too many barriers, you know, for even
that are unnecessary.
unnecessary. Too many barriers. But they are watching, so I'm sure where it's implementable. I think we also have good people and bad people. So I just hope one day we can wake up as a nation, and if you are innovative and you've come up with something, it can be given as much support as possible. All right, you wanted to add something, or you're good?
Well, actually, it was just a thought to some extent. Now that Starlink haven't done maybe voice, and SMS, the guys here could think of something.
I'm sure someone somewhere has thought about it, but
think of something, then see how to maybe approach them, or what, because they already have the local infrastructure. Now, unless maybe they decide to maybe make their own phones under Tesla and maybe bring them. But even before then, the market is ready.
Think of how you can also
make use of what is already there. Like Safaricom has 63.7%.
By this time next year, things will be very different.
Yeah.
Things will be very different. If another big player is going into this market, is coming into this market, things will be very different.
Yeah, and also the more the players.
Because these guys even increase their speed. The Safaricom.
Yeah. Which for me is where the problem is. Means you are able to do that from the one.
It's
So
like
why do you have to wait for a
it's
competitor?
just a knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah, why do you have to wait for someone to come so that you start doing good by your consumers? I don't know. Anyways, please, mimi sitaki kuambiwa spendi Safaricom, but all I'm saying is it shouldn't take another person to come into the market for you to do right by the consumer.
We love them. We just want them to do better.
Yeah, and when they do better, we'll still support. We'll still be there supporting.
We do love them.
Yeah, we do love. We love. I mean, they've been here for a minute. They're ours, but then they won't be ours if they don't do right by the consumer.
Sure.
Right, because then we've seen it's possible for someone to step in and do better by the consumer. And I feel like we really need to start making sure that the consumer's interests are being protected and not exploited. I think so.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
That's a very good point.
Si ni ukweli? Because huyu mwenye anabai hiyo ya 20 bob per hour atafaidika if they are able to do it at 8 bob per hour. Shouldn't be 20 if it's not supposed to be 20.
It's true. Provided you're still making business even at that 8 bob.
If your profit margin is still good, and by providing it at 8 bob instead of 20, you'll still make your 2 or 3 shillings, then don't exploit the consumer.
What you've said is very important. The government needs to look at that.
Yeah, they need to look at the consumer. So many products in our country are actually, you get them very cheap at other places and in good quality. Even sanitary towel. You go in Australia, you get sanitary towel cheap, good quality, kila kitu. Here, sometimes even when we know we have the niqabs, you wonder what they are standardizing. Does this meet?
I think they get overwhelmed.
Yeah, then they need to delegate and they need to make sure they pass this to other. So many people are jobless here who know standardization of products. Why do we have to leave that to a few people and pay them millions? Wape 60k each and distribute it across the country. Kwanza being overwhelmed in terms of something that affects the consumer is very wrong. Actually, that's where we need more people employed because this is something that is touching
Like one thing I think that has hindered them kabisa is the alcohol sector.
We need a conversation on cabs. They can't be the ones telling us 90% of the alcohol being sold is fake. Why are you telling us?
That's
What are you doing about it?
What are you doing? So, man,
why aren't you on the ground?
Why are you not on the ground? You know, making sure there is a cabs hapa pale.
It's because maybe they are benefiting. There are people benefiting.
It's not that. Maybe they are benefiting.
For me, I think it's just they just don't have the infrastructure.
Na unaona hiyo ndio shida. How many young people here know what needs to be done, but you won't give them opportunities.
But in the current world with the technology, I think whatever is lacking is just the political will. They just don't want to do it. They can.
We can. I mean, tuko na high speed now. So we can do anything, guys. Let me stop being petty, but you tell me what your feedback. Me, I'm very passionate about something that touches on the consumer. If something is going to be cheap, we don't need to be exploited. That's just all I'm saying. But those are my thoughts. Would love to hear yours on the comment section. Do me a favor, please check out my guests. We are putting their details on the screen right now. We'll also pin their website on the comment section, and also check 308 on TikTok. He does an amazing job there, and just connect. Like, let's share this knowledge. Let's make sure that we are high on civic education right now, because I feel like that's what has been failing our country. The fact that we are not normalizing having these conversations because we are scared that tutakuwa sponsored, that tutafanyiwa nini. Now guys, let's make sure we go hard, and we go hard matters civic education. Leave your thoughts on the comment section as you tell me also what else would you want us to talk about. Thank you so much for watching, and to my incredible team for putting putting this work together. Over and over, I've said, you see me in front of the camera, but it takes an entire village to put this work together. And thank you, Edwin, for making sure that we've had a good conversation with 3 incredible people. Bye-bye.